It's Movie Time is brought to you by the Gateway Film Center, 1550 North High Street, Columbus, Ohio. Further details and showtimes online at gatewayfilmcenter.org.
The award-winning It's Movie Time is produced by John DeSando. Listen to the shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org.
I'm John DeSando.
And I'm Linda Baas McClelland.
And this is...
It's Movie
It is
Time.
Movie Time. Linny, you and I both like to walk. You in your hometown and me in the city.
Best exercise in the world.
It is. Now, there's a film out called The Walk.
Yes.
What's the difference?
There's a big difference. In fact, I would warn those afraid of heights to skip The Walk and go see The Intern with Robert De Niro instead. Because it tells the story of Philippe Petit and his incredible 1974 high-wire walk between the brand new towers in New York City. So he's a high-wire act, and it's pretty incredible. I didn't know much about the movie going in, and I enjoyed practically every minute of it. Even the opening, when Philippe is standing on the torch of the Statue of Liberty,
yes,
with the skyline of Manhattan in the background, and there are the towers.
It's a very romantic take, and I think it's best expressed by his talking to the camera, which some people find annoying, but I like, and recounting his adventure. And he's there at the top of the Statue of Liberty, which to me, of course, represents freedom,
right,
which is what he wanted, was the freedom to do this crazy walking between these twin towers.
But it's also a loving tribute to the towers.
Yeah, it is.
And most people cannot look at the towers and not remember 9/11, and because we know the fate of those two tall buildings.
Sure, they were just being completed around the time that he got the inspiration, and he actually got it in a dentist's office when he looked in a magazine.
Right,
he saw those two, because it's a very romantic take on his life. I mean, he's riding a unicycle in France, and he meets this lovely young lady, and she hooks up with him. She's played by
Charlotte Le Bon.
Yeah.
The beginning of the movie for me was a bit slow, because they do have to show you how he became a high-wire act. He was taught by Papa Rudy, played by Ben Kingsley.
Right, always over the top.
Not only how to walk the wire, but also how to be an outstanding performer.
Yeah.
And we need to see that, even though it was slow, we need to see that to understand why he became obsessed with conquering the Twin Towers of New York City.
He's just a free spirit who got hooked on this high-wire act and pursued his dream. And that's, again, another part of the film. It's not all just about the craziness of walking between these two buildings. It's about a human being who, against all odds, pursues his dream. Now, he was asked, why does he flirt with death in doing this? He says, for him, it's life. So he is very romantically attached to this this idea of walking the wire. And 15 minutes of this movie is the high wire act.
No, I think it was closer to 20.
What, do you? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yes, he's so focused. I mean, he's such a mastermind. The second part of the movie, which is worth the wait.
Yes.
He goes with his girlfriend Annie to New York, and he has to study these towers inside and out. And he puts together this ragtag team of accomplices, and one of which is afraid of heights, naturally.
You know, just in case this sounds familiar to you, a few years ago, there was a documentary about this, which was a brilliant documentary.
Man on the Wire.
Yeah, Man on the Wire. And boy, what year, do you have the year on that?
I do not.
Okay, so it was about 5, 6, 7 years ago. But the important thing about it won the Oscar for Best Documentary, rightfully so. So when you go to see this, if you've seen the documentary, you're going to have to make that adjustment between the two. One is a docudrama. This is the one that we're talking about, The Walk. The other is a documentary that shows some of the things you're talking about, all the shenanigans that they had to go through to get up those towers.
It almost became like a heist.
Oh, it
or
did.
A caper, because they had 450 pounds of cable that had to get to the top of the tower, along with all the equipment that they had to rig between the towers and everything.
Alan Silvestri's music to this is great. It's a thriller, caper music. So they do play upon that notion, and it really was.
Yeah, I mean, they had to wear disguises and
and
do all kinds of strange, clever things to get up there and get their job done.
And unbelievably, they have more obstacles when they get to the top. They finally do, and they have police they have to worry about. There's a mystery man who comes and goes.
That's right.
That's never told who he is.
We never know who he is.
A great moment.
He might be an angel. Who
When
knows?
when they face off.
You know, for me, one of the most touching scenes was when Philippe and Annie are standing on a street, and they're looking up at the towers. The towers are, you know, in front of you, and they're standing there looking
110 stories.
Yes. But they are, I don't know if anyone else noticed this, they're standing in the exact same spot where on 9/11, someone took a video at that precise moment when the second plane went right into the towers.
Right.
And it's a video we've all seen over and over and over again. But to put it in this context was inspired, I think.
You know, you opened up with the notion about fear of heights. And I have a kind of fear of heights. And so you would think that as I'm watching that 20 minutes you're talking about,
the third part of the movie, you needed medication.
I keep begging for them to cut away because Zemeckis has just created the sensation of those 110 stories.
Right.
But I had to see. I had to look at it. I did have to see it.
And it was compelling. You couldn't
It
stop.
certainly was. And he goes back and forth at least a
Oh,
dozen
I wasn't
times.
even. I didn't want to spoil some of what actually happened when he was on that wire. But his tenacity and his focus are something to behold, especially when he was being harassed by all the policemen that had come up to the top of the towers. They're yelling at him, "Get down, get off the wire." You know, what did they expect him to do, jump?
You know, this is played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Oh, yeah.
What did you think of his performance?
He's always a bit of an imp anyway.
He is.
So, yeah, I thought the accent was perfect, and I liked him in it.
I thought he pushed the accent a bit.
Right.
I thought it was a bit overdone, but, well, you know, that's just that. But he does play it whimsically.
Yes.
And I like that. He does. Sometimes some would call the accent cheesy, you know, just an exaggerated, but I agree with you. It works.
It works in this movie because the director, who is, what's his name?
Robert Zemeckis.
Zemeckis did Forrest Gump and Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And this movie, as well as those, had this sort of impish, creative innocence to it. And so, you know, he was perfect, I thought.
And they seem to do justice to Philippe Petit's book called To Reach the Clouds. That's on which they base it, not on the documentary, but they based it on his book. So I think that they did a really good job.
Right, and the 3D IMAX makes the Twin Towers stand again. But this time you get to go up to the very top and look down.
If there is a film that you should see in 3D IMAX, this is the one. I don't ordinarily push that because, you know, the 2 dimensions is fine with me in most cases. They throw some pins and things into the, you know, Zemeckis does some kind of
when they're
cheap
juggling
thrills,
the pins and the pins come right up at you.
To let you know that you paid for this 3D. But in the end, when you're talking about that kind of height, that kind of danger, I think having the 3D IMAX is a real plus.
And not only that, but also when Philippe is walking the wire, and it does go on for a while. I couldn't have held my breath any longer. There's a moment when he looks up at the clouds, and you feel, you know, what he is thinking.
Yeah.
And then he looks down, and he's focusing on the wire under his feet. And you get the feeling that you know what that felt like. And it's an incredible feeling. It really was.
As we get to now, and we're not disclosing anything because this is the facts of the story are well known. When he splits up with his girlfriend at the end, I was disappointed because, although I guess she says she wants to pursue her dream, the breakup was unsatisfactory to me. They had been involved in this enterprise for so long.
And she was so supporting.
Yeah, and yet she just bolts, takes off. Yeah. Now, if you think about it, of course, your whole life is going to be consumed with him and his adventure. That's going to be his life. So you can see why
his next stunt.
Yeah. So that, plus some of the more romanticized beginnings that we were talking about, we kind of weaken it just slightly from it. But the real action is the kind of Mission Impossible stuff of getting to those buildings. And then You remember that he's given a pass at the end to come up to the towers whenever he wants.
Right.
And while not, what I like that Zemeckis has done, because he's also a co-writer of this, what I like is that he has not hammered home our nostalgia about 9/11.
True.
And the irony.
It's handled very well.
Yeah, the irony of his giving a pass forever, when in fact those towers are going to be coming down.
And you said in your write-up, nothing lasts forever.
Nothing lasts forever.
Nothing
Maybe
lasts
that's just a reminder to us. Lenny, we're at that time when we have to get off our romantic binge here and be hard-nosed critics.
Oh yeah.
And we are required by its movie time bylaws to apply a grade to this film. It's called The Walk. It stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt. It's directed and co-written by Robert Zemeckis, who, as you said, Forrest Gump and Back to the Future.
All right.
So, Linda, what grade do you dare to award to this film?
It's kind of easy because I thought it was thoroughly entertaining and captivating, so I give it an A.
All right, great for you. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to agree with you. I like to disagree on its movie time, but I'm going to agree with you too. It's thrilling. It's one of the great biopics of all time, and it's a super companion piece to the documentary.
Right. I agree.